many years of participating in wild boar control operations, seasoned individuals have consistently emphasized a core principle. When wild boars begin appearing on public roads, the issue has already extended beyond the scope of a single farm. A fully grown individual can weigh hundreds of kilograms. If it suddenly charges onto the road in the dark, it is fully capable of causing serious collisions. In states such as Texas or Florida, such situations occur frequently, and the consequences often unfold faster than humans can respond. Early in the morning, groups of farmers, together with control teams, were already in place. A large map was spread out, and high-risk areas were quickly identified. Sections of land that had been uprooted, areas where livestock frequently appeared, as well as crossing points where herds typically moved across roads were all carefully marked. This was not a spontaneous reaction, but a plan built on real-world observation and data accumulated over time. At the central location, a large-scale corral trap system was constructed. This was the key element of the entire strategy, to contain the entire herd in a single operation. The setup process was deliberate and calculated. Bait was arranged in layers, guiding from the outside inward, forming a natural path that led the herd deeper into the trap zone. The objective was not to attract them immediately, but to create a sense of familiarity. During the first nights, cameras only captured them standing outside, probing and observing. By the second night, a few smaller individuals began to step inside. Then, over successive nights, their alertness gradually faded, and the entire herd moved deeper toward the center. Persistence began to yield results. Once the herd had developed a habit of approaching the trap area, the moment for action was determined. The gate was triggered and shut in an instant. Inside, chaos erupted immediately. The herd compressed together, circling and constantly shifting direction within the confined space. Heavy impacts against the steel frame produced deep, muffled sounds, not overly piercing, but heavy enough to create a palpable sense of tension for anyone standing nearby. Even so, experienced individuals were not drawn into that chaos. They did not focus on the movement of the herd, but instead observed the structure of the trap itself, every joint, every load-bearing bar, every point that might be subjected to intense pressure. Because this was the most critical phase. A single minor flaw in design or installation could cause the entire plan to collapse within seconds. Inside the trap, the herd continued to move relentlessly, searching for any possible escape. Yet the structure of the trap remained intact. No weak points were broken, no gaps emerged. All pressure was contained within controlled limits. And that was the defining factor, not strength, but the ability to control the situation. In surrounding areas, secondary traps also began to take effect. Individuals that broke away or deviated from the group were intercepted. The entire team held their positions, performing exactly the roles assigned in advance. There were no sudden changes, no actions outside the plan. Everything operated like a carefully calculated system. After just 1 week, the effectiveness became clearly visible. No new tracks appeared near residential areas. No more herds crossed the roads at night. Cameras recorded a distinct change. The area grew quieter, and daily life gradually returned to normal. Roads that once posed hidden dangers had now become safer, at least for the time being. A well-conceived plan, executed with patience and precision, will always deliver more sustainable results than any rushed reaction. This is not merely a story about wildlife control, but about how humans re-establish boundaries between residential areas and nature, between stability and chaos. And from such operations, a principle gradually becomes clear. When the movement of these animals can be controlled, everything around them can be protected.
In just a single night, the entire field was torn apart, damage estimated to exceed $50,000. By the time daylight had fully settled, all that remained was churned up soil and rows of crops completely destroyed. Months of hard work had nearly vanished without a trace. With no time left to hesitate, the farmer was forced to deploy a solution never attempted before. But the question remained, could they stop the entire herd in one attempt, or would the destruction continue in the days ahead? The entire process was documented, beginning with the construction of a massive circular trap measuring up to 30 feet in diameter, a design aimed not at individual animals, but at capturing the entire herd at once. The objective was clear: at least 30 wild boars in a single operation. Because if even a few were left behind, the survivors would quickly adapt, become more cautious, and nearly impossible to trap again using the same methods. For a 500-acre farm under constant pressure, this was no longer an experimental option. It was a necessary step to regain control. For that reason, in areas with high wild boar density, a large-scale steel trap system was chosen. The circular structure, built from 4-gauge steel, stood like a reinforced enclosure. Its design eliminated sharp corners, creating an open and natural space that allowed the herd to enter without suspicion. The steel gate, 8 feet wide and weighing around 150 pounds, was connected via LTE and could be operated remotely by phone. The entire system was anchored with steel posts driven nearly 90 centimeters into the ground, strong enough to withstand the powerful force of adult boars. Each day, approximately 90 kilograms of corn were spread evenly to maintain their return pattern. During the first 3 to 5 nights, the gate remained open so the herd could become familiar with the environment without sensing any threat. Only when infrared cameras confirmed that the entire herd had moved deep inside did the operator activate the closing mechanism from distances of up to 6 kilometers. In the instant the gate dropped, every escape route was completely sealed. There was no turning back, no way out. The final result demonstrated the effectiveness of the entire system. "32 wild boars were captured in a single event, with a total estimated weight exceeding 2,500 pounds. This was not only an immediate reduction in damage, but also a way to prevent future re-entry from the same herd. Beyond crop destruction, wild boars also carry dangerous diseases such as African swine fever, ASF, porcine reproductive and respiratory syndrome, and other respiratory illnesses that can spread rapidly. When they enter livestock areas, they can transmit these diseases to domestic animals, causing serious consequences for entire farming systems. In addition, bacteria like Salmonella and E. coli can spread through the environment, increasing biosecurity risks. This makes controlling wild boars not just about protecting crops, but also a critical part of disease prevention strategies. When pushed into a controlled situation, wild boars can become extremely dangerous. Adult males, especially during breeding season, are capable of aggressive reactions to any intrusion. This creates significant risks for farmers and others working in affected areas. That is why controlling them in populated regions has become essential to protect both people and property. As the trapping day came to an end, the field gradually returned to silence. They carried the results of the entire operation back with them, leaving behind land that had just been reclaimed. And in that moment, they knew the season still had a chance to be saved.
In Bavaria, where dense forests intertwine with agricultural land, the presence of wild boars is no longer a rare occurrence. Their numbers continue to grow, spilling into fields and turning the soil into chaotic, torn-up patches. More concerning is that even during the day, some individuals are now pushing deeper into residential areas, crossing roads, appearing near homes and gardens. Encounters are no longer unusual, and in some cases, people have been attacked when getting too close. The situation has escalated rapidly, forcing authorities to launch a large-scale control operation. Reconnaissance efforts are carried out continuously, combining helicopters and unmanned aerial devices to pinpoint exactly where the herds are hiding and the routes they follow. The data quickly reveals a clear pattern. They do not move randomly but repeat familiar paths night after night. Based on this information, control teams begin planning trap installations at key points. Every detail is carefully calculated, because even a small mistake could cause the entire herd to disappear and become more cautious. Once the location is confirmed, the trap setup process officially begins. Heavy-duty steel mesh panels are transported into the selected area and assembled into a closed circular structure based on prior survey data. Steel posts are driven deep into the damp forest ground and tightened with high-tension straps to ensure absolute stability. The sound of metal echoes, breaking the stillness of the Bavarian forest. From the outside, the structure appears simple, just a circular fence. But in reality, it is a large-scale trap, designed to close at the precise decisive moment. Once the frame is complete, the control team moves into the final preparation stage. Infrared cameras are installed around the perimeter, mounted high on tree trunks to monitor the entire approach to the trap. Every action is carried out quickly and with strict control to minimize human traces, avoiding any disruption to the herd's natural behavior. Then, bait is placed. Corn and sugar beets, common food sources for wild boars in Europe, are scattered to form a trail leading inward. The largest portion is placed at the center, acting as the main attractant, gradually drawing the herd deeper inside without them realizing the boundary around them.
He's on him, actually.
Drop trap.
When everything is ready, the area returns to silence. No signs of human activity remain, only the faint scent of food drifting through the cold air. Somewhere in the forest, sensitive noses have already picked up the signal. As night falls, the silence grows heavier. Then, the first movements appear on the monitoring screens. The herd has returned. The lead boar steps forward, pauses, sniffs, and scans the surroundings. Behind it, the rest of the group waits in the darkness. Naturally cautious, they are slowly pulled closer by the scent of food. Guided by the leader, one by one they begin to enter, without hesitation, without suspicion. When the entire herd is fully inside the trap's range, the decisive moment arrives. The trap gate is triggered. A sudden metallic sound shatters the forest stillness. Instantly, the entire herd erupts into panic. They rush in all directions, slamming into the fence, trampling over one another in an attempt to escape. The ground is churned up under the weight of dozens of bodies. The largest individuals throw their full force against the steel structure, but the flexible mesh system absorbs the impact without breaking. Smaller ones try to leap over, but the height and enclosure stop every attempt. Chaos spreads as they realize there is no way out. When the control team returns, the scene has changed. The herd is no longer violently struggling. Many are exhausted after hours of trying to escape, while others stand still in a state of high alert. With more than 20 animals contained in a single capture, the farmer can finally breathe a sigh of relief. This is not just the result of one night's effort, but proof of a precise strategy, built on a deep understanding of the species' behavior. And this time, the cycle of destruction has truly been broken.
Come on. There we go. Oh. We got a bigger. Here you go. Ag turn in here.
Recently, in many areas of Texas, the wild boar population has increased rapidly, leading to more intense competition and conflicts with other wildlife.
On the way back.
They frequently compete for food, engage in direct confrontations, and raise the risk of disease outbreaks, especially African swine fever. As the population grows beyond control, the herds begin expanding their range, moving closer to livestock farms and residential areas. Their dense presence not only causes serious damage to agriculture, but also increases the risk of disease transmission to domestic animals and even impacts humans. These pressures quickly accumulate, forcing authorities to implement large-scale control measures to restore balance. Because of the growing disease risk and expanding intrusion range, systematic surveys are carried out using infrared cameras and tracking devices to identify where the herds hide and their habitual travel routes. Based on the collected data, control teams quickly mark key points frequently used by the herd to install large circular trapping systems. Every step is carefully calculated, as even a small mistake could cause the entire herd to disappear and become more cautious. Heavy T-posts are driven deep into the ground, forming a wide circular enclosure exactly at the pre-identified location. Thick steel mesh panels are stretched and connected into a closed structure, with every joint tightly secured to ensure maximum stability. The sound of metal echoes across the quiet fields. From the outside, it looks like a simple fence, but in reality, it is a system designed to hold the entire herd at the critical moment.
This is the next part. You see, I got to put the outer frame of that.
Once the structure is complete, the preparation enters its final stage. Infrared cameras are installed around the area, mounted on trees or elevated poles to monitor the entire trap zone. Human traces are minimized as much as possible. Then bait is placed. Fermented corn prepared earlier is used to create a strong scent, arranged in a trail leading from outside into the center of the trap. The largest portion is placed at the center, acting as the main attractant that gradually draws the herd deeper inside without noticing the boundaries. When everything is ready, the area returns to silence. Only the faint scent of food lingers in the air. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, sensitive noses begin to pick up the smell. As night falls, the first movement signals appear on the monitoring screen. The wild boar herd has returned. The lead boar steps forward, pausing to observe and smell the surroundings. Behind it, the rest of the herd follows, moving in according to their established pattern. Although naturally cautious, the scent of food dulls their awareness. Guided by the leader, one by one they move deeper inside. There is no suspicion, no hesitation. When the entire herd is fully inside the trap area, the decisive moment arrives. Immediately, the gate system is triggered remotely. A sudden metallic crash shatters the silence of the field. The entire herd falls into panic, charging in all directions and crashing into the steel fence. The ground is torn apart under their weight and repeated impacts. Larger individuals attempt to break the structure, while smaller ones try to squeeze through, but all efforts fail. There are no gaps, no escape. The chaos continues until exhaustion sets in. As the sun rises, the control team returns to the trap site. By then, the herd is no longer struggling violently as during the night. Many are exhausted, breathing heavily after hours of attempting to escape. Some remain standing, alert and reacting to every movement. But seeing the entire herd contained at once, the farmers can finally breathe a sigh of relief. It is the moment they realize the plan has truly worked.
If this herd can survive tonight, what is preserved is not just a few rows of trees or a patch of farmland. It is an entire year of labor, days under the sun and wind, hours of constant care, all of which can vanish overnight if wild boars sweep through. In many rural areas across the United States, this scenario is no longer unfamiliar. It repeats itself again and again, silently yet devastatingly, as dozens of hectares of land are torn apart before the sun even rises. With wild boars, everything happens faster than human response capacity. They leave little time for thinking or preparation. Once a target is chosen, they move according to their own plan, quietly and with precision. Statistics show that even a group of 15 to 20 individuals is enough to destroy more than 1 hectare of crops within a few nighttime hours. And what is even more concerning than their destructive power is the way they learn. If not addressed early, the damage will quickly spiral out of control. Recovery costs are always far higher than initial prevention costs. And the longer it continues, the more cautious the herd becomes. Sound devices and simple deterrents may work at first, but over time, they gradually lose effectiveness. Wild boars learn very quickly. They adapt, remember, and adjust their behavior after only a few encounters. Instead of betting everything on a large-scale solution from the beginning, the first strategic step is surprisingly simple: set up a small trap for observation. This is not the stage for catching as many as possible, but for understanding the herd's behavior. Which one leads? Which one is the most alert? How long does it take for the entire group to enter the baited area? These seemingly minor details ultimately determine the outcome. Just one small mistake can cause the opportunity to disappear completely. If the herd detects any unusual sign, they may not return for days, even weeks. In wildlife control, understanding behavior is always more important than acting hastily. Patience in the early stage is an investment in long-term effectiveness. Once the herd's movement patterns and reactions become clear, the strategy begins to shift. The setup cannot remain unchanged for too long, as that would make the trap detectable. The trap height is adjusted, and the activation timing is recalculated with greater precision. When the herd's reaction time is reduced to a minimum, the chance of escape becomes almost non-existent. A drop trap does not need to be complex. What matters is timing. When triggered at the right moment, the entire herd has almost no time to scatter. Their herd instinct, the very trait that helps them survive, becomes their weakness. They move together, react together, and when captured, they are captured all at once. As a result, the damage is stopped at the source before it can spread. After successful captures, the trapping system continues to be refined. The mechanism becomes smoother, the structure stronger, yet without unnecessary complexity. Costs may increase, but every adjustment is based on real data collected in the field. Bait placement is optimized. Activation timing is fine-tuned. The goal is not the biggest trap, but the most suitable one for the specific conditions of each area. Ultimately, effectiveness does not come from scale, but from understanding. Understanding how the herd moves. Understanding how they react. And most importantly, understanding when to act. When these elements come together, control is gradually regained. If you have ever faced a similar situation, you will understand that this is not just a battle against an animal. It is a battle of patience, observation, and making the right decision at the right time. Block the right path, act at the critical moment, and above all, Always comply with local regulations and work with experienced professionals to ensure safety for both people and the surrounding environment.
Not everyone has ever seen an entire herd of wild boars trapped inside a single enclosure. I've witnessed it a few times, but never on that kind of scale. That night, when the system tightened, the tension filled the air, anchor lines humming, the net shaking hard. Inside, the herd panicked, trampling over each other and searching for a way out. And it all started from a patch of ground that had been torn apart. The first time I visited Uncle James's farm, things had already gone far beyond control. The grass field was ripped into large patches, the soil turned over heavily, with signs scattered across the entire area. You didn't even need to see the boars. Just looking at the ground told the whole story. A large herd had passed through during the night, and not just once. Neighbors nearby confirmed they kept coming back for weeks, despite every attempt to drive them away. Lights stayed on all night, guards rotated shifts, even multiple deterrent methods were used, but nothing worked. What stood out wasn't just the level of destruction, but how quickly the herd adapted. They returned on schedule, followed the same paths, and grew more confident each time. Once it had gone on that long, the solution couldn't be reactive anymore. It had to shift into a controlled, systematic approach. The next morning, we began setting up the trap early. The netting was carried into the forest, teams worked in sections, each anchor point secured tightly to tree trunks. The work seemed simple, but it demanded precision, because even a small misalignment could render the entire system useless. Once everything was in place, it became completely still. There was nothing left to do but wait for the right moment. The herd wasn't forced into the trap. They followed their own habits, guided by bait and familiarity. The lead boar appeared first, paused to observe, then stepped inside. The rest followed behind, one by one, without the slightest suspicion. Once they started feeding, their alertness gradually dropped. The longer they stayed, the deeper they moved into the center, never realizing the enclosure had already closed around them. The circular trap design worked exactly as intended. There were no blind spots to escape through, no weak points to break. When they sensed something wrong, their only instinct was to run. But in a closed circular space, running only drained their energy faster. They kept circling, crashing into the net, sending strong vibrations through it, yet the entire structure held firm. Every charge only tightened the net further, never weakening it. There were no gaps, no break points. No matter how they struggled, rammed, or tried to break free, it all led to the same outcome: exhaustion. That was when I understood the core principle of this system. Once the entire herd steps into the circle, the chance of escape is almost gone. Not because the trap is complex, but because it uses the herd's own behavior against them. The entire process was monitored through screens. It wasn't fear, it was intense focus. As notifications began appearing continuously from different points, we knew the system was working exactly as planned. Not just one trap, but multiple locations were reporting results. The feeling in that moment was a mix of tension and relief, as the long chain of damage was finally brought to a stop. What came next followed a set procedure. Each animal was controlled and transported, the numbers so large we had to rethink the logistics. But what mattered more was the outcome. The farm was no longer being destroyed every night, and the people living there could finally sleep peacefully again. On the drive back, in the quiet of the vehicle, I realized that success didn't come from a single moment, but from a process of observation and patience. Control doesn't come from the size of the trap, but from the precision of timing and execution. If you've ever faced a situation like this, share your experience. And if you found this useful, don't forget to follow for more real-world strategies like this.
Tough in a mess, didn't you?
For many years working alongside my father in wild boar control, I came to understand one key principle. When they begin appearing on roads, it is no longer just a farm issue. In places like Texas, herds follow familiar routes, so the risk extends beyond crops to traffic as well. A boar weighing hundreds of kilos rushing out at night can cause a serious accident, making control something that must be handled in a structured way. The next morning, I went with my father to meet farmers and the control team. A map was quickly laid out, marking areas of torn soil, repeated trails, and crossing points where herds frequently passed. No one said much, because everyone understood these signs were critical data. They revealed not only location, but also movement patterns that in wide regions like Texas. Some teams use helicopters to observe from above. From that view, movement paths become clearer, disturbed soil lines and trails cutting across fields. The helicopter is not used for capture, but it helps determine exactly where traps should be placed, avoiding mistakes in setup. The operation was divided into two directions. I went with my father to place blocking traps along narrow paths, routes the herd must take to reach residential areas. Meanwhile, another team set up a large corral trap at a central point. If blocking traps guide movement, the corral is where the circle closes, aiming to control the entire herd at once.
Has its own battery pack. The
bait was placed in layers from the outside inward, creating a natural approach. On the first night, the boar stayed outside and observed. On the second night, a few stepped in. Over the following nights, the whole herd gradually became familiar with the area. There was no rush, because acting at the wrong moment could cause them not to return. Once the herd was moving comfortably inside, the most critical moment began. The gate dropped in an instant, and the space inside immediately turned chaotic. Large bodies pressed together, repeatedly hitting the steel frame in search of a way out. The heavy, continuous sound created a clear sense of pressure, even for those watching from outside that I... In that moment, my father did not focus on the chaos. He focused on structure. He checked load points and joints to make sure everything held steady. If any part failed, all previous planning would become meaningless. This was not the moment to act, but to verify the plan. But the trap held firm. No animal escaped, and no pressure spread outward. At the same time, the outer traps blocked any individuals that tried to break away. The entire team stayed in position, following the plan exactly. That coordination allowed the whole system to function as a closed loop.
You did it. They're not as small as... Ooh. Yep. Come on. Get the bus. Hip. Get the bus. Hip. Let's go ahead and shut it.
That a week later, the results became clear. No more herds crossing roads again, and no new tracks near residential areas. Cameras showed growing calm, and people began sleeping better. Roads that once felt dangerous became safer. Not because the problem disappeared, but because it was properly controlled at INT.
Yeah. Good job. There we go. Yep.
Texas, and many other states, wild boars cause billions of dollars in damage every year. They do not just eat, they destroy soil, roots, and irrigation systems within hours. That is why modern traps are not meant to eliminate them completely, but to control behavior and reduce conflict. If you found this useful, leave a comment and don't forget to follow for more real-world situations.
Don't come to me. Go. It's going.
In just one night, a field in central Texas was turned into a churned-up wasteland, rows of crops overturned as if a massive plow had passed through in the darkness. The estimated damage exceeded $60,000, and by sunrise, all that remained were dense tracks and completely destroyed patches of soil. With no other option, the farmer was forced to shift from defense to proactive control. But the question still lingered: could a single solution stop the entire herd, or would everything repeat the next night? The data from cameras and ground traces quickly revealed one thing: the herd was not moving randomly. They returned to the exact same route, the exact same point. An open area right at the edge of the field was selected as the trap location. A circular steel system was assembled with a diameter of nearly 10 meters, creating a space large enough for the entire herd to enter without feeling pressured. No gaps, no suspicious elements. Everything was designed to resemble a naturally safe zone. Steel panels were secured with deep-driven posts, strong enough to withstand the impact of fully grown boars. At the center of the trap, Dozens of kilograms of corn were spread out daily. But the key factor was not the amount of bait, it was timing. For the first 4 nights, the gate remained fully open. The boars began to return, first as cautious scouts, then gradually the entire herd entered and fed without hesitation. Cameras captured every step, from initial hesitation to complete comfort moving inside the trap area. That was the critical moment, when suspicion disappeared. On the 5th night, everything changed. Once the entire herd had moved deep inside, the operator monitored remotely via phone. With a single signal sent, the steel gate dropped instantly. No loud noise, no prolonged chaos, just a brief moment, and the entire herd was contained inside. Every escape route vanished, and their only chance was gone in an instant. The result exceeded expectations. 37 wild boars captured in a single operation. The total estimated weight surpassed 3,000 pounds. But the real value was not in the numbers, it was in completely breaking the herd's return cycle. If only individual animals were removed, the rest would quickly adapt and become harder to approach. But when the entire herd is controlled at once, the cycle of destruction is effectively stopped. However, the damage caused by wild boars goes far beyond torn-up soil. They also carry invisible risks, from infectious diseases that can spread to livestock, to disruptions across the entire farming ecosystem.
Oh my God.
When they penetrate deep into livestock areas, they can become carriers of biological threats that farmers cannot manage through conventional means. More dangerously, when cornered, large adult boars can react with extreme aggression. Weighing hundreds of kilograms and capable of powerful impacts, they pose a threat not only to crops but to human safety. That is why control must be carried out remotely, using automated systems, rather than direct confrontation. When the operation ended, the field gradually returned to silence. standing on the land that had just been reclaimed, the farmer understood this was more than a single success. It was a shift in approach. No more reactive responses, no more chasing losses. Instead, strategic control, calculated execution, and enough force to stop the problem at its source. And in that silence, one thing became clear. In nature, the most dangerous threat is not what appears suddenly, but what returns every night, precise, repetitive, and increasingly difficult to stop, until humans decide to change how they confront it.